Hi, welcome. How are you, Millie?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for inviting me to be part of these amazing videos, and welcome to my studio. My name is Amanda Linares. I'm from Cuba, but I've been living in Miami for 12 years already. And I'm a multidisciplinary artist. My background is actually in printmaking. I did 4 years in printmaking in San Alejandro, the Academy of Fine Arts in Cuba, Havana. And then I did set design, which is a little bit completely, different. It was more related with like theater, lighting, costumes, and I guess somehow installation. And then after that, then is when I migrated to Miami, and then I did graphic design in New World School of the Arts that I later incorporated into my art practice.
We met years ago, and I remember going through all your work, and you had these beautiful artist books and illustration, and this sense of passion and storytelling. And your work has grown, big, like literally grown. It's still poetic,
Yeah.
but it's grown so much to large scale. How did that transition happen?
I guess one of the main exhibitions that helped me to push, I guess, this type of conversation that I started with the material of concrete and like, I guess, yeah, expand myself more into installation and like working with space was the solo show that I had at Tunnel Projects in the Havana that is run by Luna Palazzolo. And she gave me the opportunity to have a solo show there at her project room. It was called In the Midst of All. And this is actually part of that exhibition, part of the work of that exhibition, where I was considering not only the walls, but for the first time, the floor. I guess a lot of my work talks about things that are unseen, that we don't pay attention to. So I do like this kind of like little moments of small little things that you have to like pause and kind of like appreciate it, which I think it also happens with artist books, right? It's such an intimate format because you have to go in and go through the pages to read the narrative of whatever the story is. And I really like that action of like leaning towards something to kind of like see a little bit what's going on in that like microscopic world. So yeah, I started with this body of work for that exhibition. It was more about exploring, I would say, time and memory within the realms of domestic spaces, and then how the outside and the inside world or landscapes of a house collide. And that's why, or the way that I bring the insects to the conversation. Them as, I guess, memories. Also, some of the insects that I selected, for example, the cocuyo here, which is the only piece that I have that is not a drawing. This is actually oil paint on wood, and it's a found object that it was part of the back of a mirror. So there was also this like conversation of this object, which was this mirror that didn't exist fully, but more fragmented. And I also did a drawing of that mirror on concrete, like real scale size of the object. And I guess there was also this, dialogue with that object that was disappearing within the space and reappearing at the same time. And the reason what I shows the cocuyos is because it's an insect that like goes back to my childhood. I used to play around with cocuyos when I was a child because in the neighborhood where I grew up, right in front of my house, there was this place that we called El Placer because it was like full of like plants and grass, and there was nothing built there. They never ever really built anything there. It was only where they would have things built from time to time, but always something happened to the place and things would not like progress. So I don't know. At some point we were thinking there's some brujeria in there. which I really like. I guess that element of the Cuban culture, this folklore and like mysteries. But when I was a child, that was full of cocuyos at night, they are actually called in English click beetles. Um, and yeah, we used to catch them and release them and kind of like, I guess, pedir un deseo, you make a wish. Yeah. But later, when I grew up with years, then I realized that they disappeared. They were not there anymore, literally just vanished. And I feel like unintentionally, I was incorporating also that into this conversation of things that are a representation of the world itself, how things just shift or vanish or disappear, or like migrate, either because of our human imprint, or just because the way also that the world it kind of like develops itself. These are the moths, which a lot of us find in the houses, and here are the grasshoppers, which, oh my god, I actually saw one for the first time a week ago when I was in Orlando for the installation of the show. And I was so excited. I took a video of it and I shared it on Instagram because it was the first time I would see one in real life. And it was actually black and yellow. Really beautiful.
Yeah, they're beautiful colors.
Yes.
Like my grandmother had a bunch of them in her yard.
Uh-huh.
I was scared of them at first because they seem so big. And
they are really big. I also found a skeleton, like a real skeleton of one. That was really cool too. And there was an artist, I think it was Mark Delmont. He told me the same conversation that I just told about the cocuyos, like how he experienced the same thing of like not seeing grasshoppers anymore in the places of where he used to find them. So it is part of his childhood, but it's also how this memory has kind of like vanished also through time. And like you think about it, like how these next generations are going to have a completely different experiences in these places where you lived,
And congratulations.
Thank you.
You're one of the winners of the Florida Prize.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big deal because it's only awarded to 10 artists,
mm-hmm.
and you're one of them. How was that experience for you?
Honestly, it's been great. I never imagined that I will be part of it. I mean, anytime soon, that's what I'm trying to say. We always hope, right, for the opportunity to arise. But 2 years ago, I actually went and found out about this for the first time. I had no idea about the Florida Prize. And I went there to support a couple of artists that I knew. And that was really exciting for me to kind of like discover this part of this opportunity that Florida has. Because I think it's one of the only type of event where a museum kind of like includes a variety of artists, from emerging artists to more established ones, which I think is really important. It kind of like put a light on them to have not only in the state but also, I would say, the country to know about these artists. So yeah, it was definitely super gratifying. Coralie contacted me and like let me know that they were interested in placing my work, including it specifically the installation Pira Shugari that I had last year, which I think it was a really good opportunity to like jump into this like large scale work that I've been trying to develop. And yeah, it's been great. I spent there 10 days installing the work.
It was complex, no?
Yeah, because I was giving also the opportunity of like using 2 rooms, not only one. So it was one room for the installation of Yo vengo a todas partes y hacia todas partes voy, the one that I showed last year, Pierre Chugari, as I mentioned. And then I was giving the opportunity of another small room that had like natural light, and I really liked that, where I was able to actually do a new site specific along with 2 more wall works. Because one of them, there's 3, but one of them I already had finished that I did last year. But yeah, it was really exciting. Kind of like, again, incredible that they pay attention to my work and wanted to include it. And then to know that I was also participating with other artists that I admire a lot, like Natalie Alfonso, Cornelius. Yeah, like it was being incredible.
I remember when you had the studio at the Bake House, but you've been an Oolite resident a few times, I think last year too. How does it feel to have a studio here? Because this place is huge. Big studio.
Yeah, it's the first time that I have such a big studio, and it really changes a lot, the way, I guess, that you experience your own work, because you're able, to have space to display it better, and kind of like get yourself a little bit, what's it called, like get away a little bit of it, to kind of like see it from afar and think other, have other thoughts in your mind that could help, or like either connect works that you've never seen connecting each other, or like see what that can also help you to think about another project. But this is my second space at Oolite. I had another room that is right in front of the office. I think it's studio number 208. And it was more like, it was also big, not as big as this one, but it was partitioned. So I had like my workstation on the back and kind of like this exhibition room on the front. So I still was having that opportunity as well to display my work. But yes, it's been a big transition. I think my studio at the Bakehouse, I obtained it on, I think, 2021.
Yeah.
So I was there for like 2 years, I believe, and it was great. It really, like, honestly, the Bakehouse has been like a second house for me, artistically speaking, just because I graduated in 2020, right in the middle of COVID.
Oh.
Horrible thing. But I was able to apply for an art residency that they were hosting for during the summer. So they accepted me, and that, I guess, I had a foot on the door already, and then from there things just started like rolling, basically. So I had my first studio space with them, and I share it with Carolina Casusol, a really good friend of mine who passed away. And yeah, it was amazing to have that opportunity. The Bakehouse is always, trying to also either have the artists participating at the galleries that they have in their space, and then you have also these arranged facilities that I never had before, like the ceramic room, the wood shop, the kiln, other facilities that I was not having the opportunity to work with. And once I was accepted at Oolite, when I applied, I was like, okay, perfect, like a studio residency, which is definitely like a different experience. I didn't want to be away from the Bakehouse, just because I knew that the like the structure of Oolite is a little bit different. It's more about giving you a space, but they don't have the facilities of like the working stations that the Bakehouse has. So I decided to do like a membership artist associate, that you pay every year in order for you to use those facilities. So that's what it did. So I'm here, I have the space, I can work here. I also have a bunch of like instruments and tools that I can use. But if I need something more that I cannot build in here, then I will go to the Bakehouse to do that outdoors. Because a lot of things that I work with, like concrete, cement, even wood, they can be, like toxic, and not. It's not. I wouldn't recommend fully, to do it inside your studio. But yeah, if you have the possibility of doing it like outdoors, it will be better. But there are other artists that I see that they do like cover some sections with plastic,
Yeah.
to help help not contaminate spaces too, which is smart.
What's a typical day look like for you?
It varies, honestly. It varies of what's happening with me in that moment, professionally speaking. Like if I am working towards something very specific, like an art show, or like, I don't know, yeah, more like an art show or something, like a deadline, that I have. You will see me here more constantly, like almost daily. I do have a part-time job. I'm not a full-time artist. So 3 days a week I work at my job, and then I will come after. So after, I mean, maybe like around 5:30 p.m. during the weekdays, you will see me here. So nighttime, and then the rest of the days that I have off, then I will be here during the day, and it can be on the weekend, like today on a Sunday. I guess I don't have a super regulated schedule. It just depends what's going on. But yeah, I really like that. I think I like the freedom of kind of create my own schedule,
Yeah.
as opposed to rely, on something that has to be very specific. And the good thing about these type of studios is are like 24 hours open, so you can really access it whenever you need. Yeah, because like I remember working for the piece. These are reminiscence of that piece that I had at the Deering State.
I remember this.
I was in such a tight deadline. I literally spent almost an entire night in here. I think that night, before we had to like actually go to the site and build it, because it was a site specific, exterior site specific. The day before, I was like literally just trying to finish the drawing, and I think I left maybe like a 4 a.m. or something like that. So
I see how you have the space divided. Do you have your workstation? Show me around.
See, yeah, kind of like the same idea. I think the workstation. So, well, here, I guess because I have more space, I was able to also divide it in the middle.
Yeah.
So to the right on the back will be my workstation.
This is Shadow.
And then, yes, this is Shadow. She's excited because there's a little doggy outside. But yeah, so I have my workstation here. I can also expand more towards this side. I have taken actually this wall. This is also a memory of when I was working on that project, because I put the panels on the wall. And yeah, and then I guess on the other side, it will be more like the exhibition type of display. Section. Yes.
Yeah. And then you have your workstation. This is really clever because you have your files.
I built this.
You did?
I built, yes. So why did I build this? Let's start there. When I had my space at the bake house, it was really tiny.
Yeah.
The studio there, really, really tiny, and it was becoming even smaller when I was producing, because the more you produce, of course, the more storage you need. So I really wanted to have a flat file cabinet because they're super, helpful in storaging. But I knew that I was not going to have the space of having a table and also the flat file cabinet. So I was like, why don't I just build like a bench? What's it called? Like a work bench table, like like the ones that carpenter use. And then I also have like a storage section under it. So I kind of like saw a bunch of like videos on YouTube, basically. And then I figured out that it was also a smart idea to put wheels on it so you can move it. And yeah, I basically did my design and I did it on my own. I definitely had some sort of like issues along the way of like measurements, because when you're measuring for furniture, you have to measure and be aware of the thickness of the wood that you're working with. So there was just little issues, but I resolved them along the way, and I was really happy with the outcome. This has been so like useful. Oh my God. And everybody always asks me about this, and I'm like, yeah, I built it. And they're like, oh yeah. And then this furniture over there, I actually got it from an artist who had her studio at Collective 62, Catalina. If Catalina ever sees this video, hello. She actually is in Spain. She moved to Spain. So she gave me this really cool furniture. I think it's from IKEA.
These are great.
Yeah, this is great.
They hold a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So I have also stuff here. Pieces of wood.
I was told, I told you how much I love this. Is this something new that you're working on?
No. So that is actually part of some, I would say, experiments that I did back at New World, and this is actually another one. So the way that I started with concrete was basically that doing like photo transfers on concrete. Not much. It's basically just printing the picture on paper
Yeah.
And then you use what I used was gel medium, which is really good to transfer. So once you apply the gel medium, like a really thick layer, then you put on the side where the ink is. You put it on the gel medium, and then you let it dry. And when you dry it, and when it's dried, you put water, and then you rub out all the paper, and that's when the ink just stays. In this case, because the concrete color was so dark, I wanted something a little bit light and contrasty, so I actually applied paper, with the gel medium and the concrete. So I put paper on the back, so I could still have this kind of like more effect of something that was left, like a piece of paper,
Right.
and also to bring more the image of the photo. Yeah, I believe this is my great grandmother. So this is my mom's great grandmother.
Yeah.
Ajá.
No tu bisabuela.
Exactly.
Yeah, sí.
No, well, esa es su bisabuela, I think. And so that's my
Really?
tatarabuela. Yeah.
Tatarabuela. Oh my gosh. It's amazing you held on to the photo itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. Can you tell me about these?
Yes. These are prints, so pre-making, like dry point. Dry point. So sometimes I need to think, because then I translate from Spanish to English. Because since my background is in pre-making, I learn everything in Spanish. But yes, dry point. And I use Tetra Pak. This actually, I learned about this a New World with Kathleen. Tetra Pak is this like packaging material that you see in like the milk that come in like cardboard, and some uses too. And when you cut and open inside, the material inside is kind of like looks like a metal, like a very grayish metal, and you can actually go with like a piece of metal. For this one, I think I use, the instruments that dentists use.
Yes.
That you can use it specifically to kind of like create, scratch the surface, basically. So you're scratching the surface as if you were drawing on the material. And then after you're done with the design, you take the ink and you apply it, and whatever what's it called, excess you have, then you take it out. You take all the excess, and whatever ink is left inside the incision that you made, that's what it stays, and that's what you transfer to the paper. In this case, I wanted, and this is what we talked before, I wanted something that will feel more like an object. So I got rid of the traditional idea of having, like the rectangle plate. Yeah. So I didn't want that reading at all. I wanted something that looked more 3D, or like you could see, oh, it's an object. And I actually cut around the figure to leave it more into what the object could be.
That's such natural light.
Which I kind of like, because it also reminds of like an engofrado, like if you were doing like a mark on the paper.
Yeah, like a stamp.
Like an emboss. That's what is engofrado. It's like an emboss on the paper. Yeah. Yes.
And this one?
And this one, it's called Orbits. And it started actually from a book that I can show you as well. I can show you some artist books as well. From a book that I did of my paternal grandfather. Both of my grandfathers passed away, different type of cancer. My paternal grandfather passed away when I was actually studying a New World. So it was more like an experience of death when I was more like an adult, because my maternal grandfather, he passed away when I was very, very little. And then, the experience is different. It's more like shocking. Also, he was in Cuba, so I didn't see him anymore. And then my dad, who traveled from Peru to Cuba, didn't arrive on time, and basically he just encountered his ashes. So his ashes were spread on the sea. That's what he wanted. And that metaphor of the ashes on the sea, I, was really touched by it, and I wanted to create a book that was kind of like, his memory, to kind of like remember him and talk about what he was and what he became. And I created with the book an object, which is this object that you see more now in like its own different, um, I don't know, like different, I would say, drops of water. So an object that will remind of a drop of water from the sea or rain. And then it will have this like marble paper inside, this accordion book. So I also see this as a book, as an artist book, but in a very abstract way. Of course, it's not so literal. This is old handmade marble paper, and it's cut out by hand and glued. All was fabricated. I normally do everything on my own, but for this, I did have a good friend of mine, Dennis, who assisted me with the making, and it was great. You learn a lot when you have an assistant, just because we all so control freaks.
Yeah.
And I am.
How do you do that? How do you relinquish control?
It
It's
was
hard.
It was really hard. I trusted him because I already knew him. We started a new world, so I knew he was very picky. And he was really good at cutting, with the X-Acto knife and everything.
We're Capricorn.
So
extremely picky.
Exactly. So I trusted him. He's a really good friend of mine. He knows me very well. So, working together was kind of like easy for the both of us. But yeah, so from that book, this piece was born, and I named it Orbits. The book is actually called Adios. So Orbits also has this, I would say, poem in a loop, which kind of like forces the viewer to create also a circle.
Yeah.
The idea of a circle was very important to me, because we're talking about, like beginning and end, the full circle experience of, like, when you're born and when you died. And then the poem goes, "You are a dream drop of rain that runs through my body, orbiting someone else's skin in riddles of ellipses and hyperbolas, like a collection of atoms." So there's also this dialogue of, the human body, atoms, but also like a more universal feeling of like this um, bodies of orbits kind of like collapsing, like if there were planets too, and like how they are orbiting in the same place. And yeah.
Tell me, who are some of your favorite artists you love?
Okay, that's always a really hard question, because there's so many people that I studied and that I admire, and some artists that I connected at a moment, but I not connected with them anymore. And this is gonna sound really shocking, but when I was studying pre-making, well, one of the artists, of course, that I connect and I still connect a lot, it's Belkis Ayón, a really big figure in Cuba. Not only because she was a printmaker, which I would say is a very is a very difficult media that I don't think it has the recognition that it needs, because as a, I would say, traditional artistic expression, I feel like it has minimized in value a lot. So having this super female figure and kind of like putting printmaking at another level, to me, that was super beautiful and like outstanding. And then also all the dialogue that she was bringing about Yoruba culture, which is very mysterious and secretive as well in Cuba. Because I feel like if you're not part of it, there's a lot of things that you don't understand. And yeah, and like all her compositions were amazing. So she was definitely a really big influence. And then at some point, I had a very a very influence of Klimt. The painter Klimt. my mom loved him too. I mean, she loves his paintings
I
too.
love it.
But Gustav Klimt, at some point, I don't know why. I mean, it's beautiful. His paintings are beautiful. I was super into that style, like very decorative. And then I started,
Funeral.
yeah, if you, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I started to create these like characters in printmaking. I really like, I've always liked dry point, I would say the most, because it's very like drawing oriented. So I used to do these characters with like very like big hair, like his character. But the feeling was always a little bit different because it was using more like black and whites and just very little amount of color. I feel like that's always been a little bit of my dialogue, that if I use color, it will be very conscious of why I'm using those colors, and also very quiet. They're never super striking or like, so I somehow they have this kind of like nostalgic, I would say, feeling. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I think. And so yeah, and then later on, when I'm in dieta, I know I don't do a lot of performance. Performance has something that you started like last year with the work Yo vengo de todas partes y ese todas partes voy, just because I feel like it required it. I wanted this kind of participatory also and collaborative element within the work, and I feel like the work needed and it needs to be activated.
Was it scary for you to bring in performance?
It's always, yes, it's always scary. I was super nervous when I did it this last time at the Orlando Museum of Art, just because it was a new audience, and I don't know, like, I know and I see that people do welcome very well performance, but I am always afraid of, I guess, with performance. I feel like sometimes, and this is just a personal opinion, I feel like sometimes it can come, like, I want to do things that are very intentional, and I don't want to do something that looks like something easy, or like that I didn't think about it,
Exactly.
yeah, too
You didn't
much,
think about it.
and
Yeah.
then oh, it's great, like, no, like, I want to make sure that if I'm using it, it's because it's intentional, because it makes sense, and because it was part of what the work needed, because I feel like with that and some art inspections, sometimes you can be a little bit more, I would say, not too, I don't know, like, I feel like if you do something that's not extremely constructed or built, like, or like thought of, and is still welcome in a positive way, when you see that it might not have that, how can I say, it might not have that level that really needs,
Yeah.
but it feels like it's missing something, or it's short.
You want it to
And
have a
it's
genuine impact.
exactly. So I'm always conscious about that, and I think I was a little bit afraid with performance because I've never done it, and I didn't want to do something that didn't feel like it was proper to do, but yeah, no, it went well. That performance specifically, it has some sort of, like, I do practice before, but there's no much practice, just because there's a lot about like what's happening in the moment, with me, like the soils and like the walking, because it's more about that, about activating the ground more than anything.
And it becomes intuitive.
Exactly, so it's very intuitive as well.
How long is this residency? Just a year, isn't it?
It's 2 years, and this is my second year.
Okay.
So yeah, so this is my last year. I know.
I mean, it's artists apply, but then not everybody gets chosen. Ideas in terms, would you be willing to travel for an outside residency somewhere else?
That would be great. But I haven't applied to many residencies lately, just because I want to take advantage of my residency here. It's in Miami, like, and just this is just like literally my last year. So, but yeah, I will definitely be open to do something for next year. I don't know where I'm going next year after this residency, but we'll see. Things always, opportunities always arise in the most unexpected moments. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what's your advice for young artists? Anything you wish you were told when you were starting out?
Um, I think, okay. So I feel like school doesn't teach you a lot of things. Like for example, grants, residencies, or even the possibility of participating in like art in public places,
Yes.
which I think is like another step that I want to do.
Yes.
To kind of like create projects that work more with the architecture, like the community. Since I'm already expanding into like a more large scale works, it will be good to have the experience of like how does a piece, either a sculpture, an installation, can work outdoors. It's completely different because there's many like environmental factors that you have to take into consideration. So I will say inform yourself about all the things that maybe you're not receiving at school. Try to do a studio visits with other artists is super important. Like I'm super helpful. I'm sorry. I'm super thankful that you are doing this. Just because it really shows to students and other emerging artists what each of us have a different journey, basically, and how we are at different stages in our also profession.
Yeah, and no profession is the same.
No,
all of you are different.
no, exactly, completely different, and our our artistic expressions are completely different. So yes, I would say that do studio visits, try to apply to our residencies. It's really amazing to have opportunities and experiences that are like local and not local. So either in another state or even another country. I haven't actually done residencies in other countries. I will be super interested about that too, because I know the style of work is very different. And yeah, and then apply to grants if you have projects. Make sure you apply to. There's a lot of grants that the county also gives. There's
We're
also
lucky we have cultural affairs.
Exactly.
It's such a huge resource for artists. Get on that.
Exactly.
Get on cultural affairs. They just want to give you money.
Yeah, the MIA grant is super helpful.
Very helpful.
Because artist access, exactly. That's super helpful. Yeah. I would say that Oolite as well. Always apply to Oolite. It's also offering always residencies throughout the state, and also this residency as well. That is like about a year, 1 year or two, depending. Yeah, it really gives you opportunity and exposure to other, other galleries or creators. Oh, always show up to our shows. I feel like it's very important to do networking. And the best way is really if you show up to our shows to support your peers or like get to know, galleries or curators. I've been looking to work with really good curators, like my friend Yi Ching. But yeah, that always helps you to grow as an artist.
Gracias. This was wonderful. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. I'm going to leave Amanda's information below so you could get acquainted, her website, her past projects, future projects, all of the details. And if you're able to travel to Orlando to see the Florida Prize and the winners and their works, please do so because it's incredible.
A ti, gracias.
A few moments later.
This was my first book. Well, this is my first book that I did at N Mills Arts when I was studying bookmaking with Cara Todero. She was my teacher. Amazing teacher. And this was the very first one. Yes, we love Cara. This was the first one that we did as a sketchbook, basically. So what you're seeing here, it's designs of imagination. I guess I was creating kind of like imaginatory narrative of this female of this character that is looking for her head, basically.
Oh, okay.
I think I missed
I
something
love
here, though.
this.
Yeah. Oh, see, that was part of also the search of the head. That's basically the whole idea of of this sketchbook. How about this female character looking for her head?
So I'm obsessed with collage.
I love
her
collage. Yes, I
the
love
symbolism it
collage.
could hold. I love collage, and so this reminds me of that. Like, look at that. Oh, I love this. And this was your very first artist book?
See, the very first one, yeah. Because again, this is the first book that we made because it's a sketchbook basically.
Without experience.
No, without.
No. My gosh. You're very good at it.
Thank you.
There's a certain level of meticulous that you need to have. Like you have to be very neat. I'm almost afraid that I'm gonna mess up an artist book when I go through it.
Oh, same. I was very afraid of that.
Beautiful.
It's like very illustration oriented. I love illustration. I definitely have stepped away from that because
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like I don't need to be so literal, and I like the idea of ambiguity in the work.
Yeah,
yeah, and also use metaphors. So I guess that's also a reason why. And I love material too, so that tactile and like conversation through material, I'm very into that. But I love illustration. Beautiful. And it makes sense.
I love that you did this.
Yeah.
You cloudy the hair.
Uh-huh.
With the tape, but it gives it a whole different effect.
It's actually like vellum right. Paper, yeah. Crazy. That I glue. And then this is fabric.
That's old fabric, yeah.
Uh-huh. I got a little bit, well, there was so much work that we were doing at school while doing the sketchbook because we needed to have certain amount of pages every week. It was hard. I'm not gonna lie. I think from this page, I didn't have much time to think, as regarding like design for the story.
Yeah.
So I see the difference. You might not see it if I don't mention it to you, but I do see that I didn't have much time to be a little bit more meticulous and put more details in the drawings. But they still look good. They still look good.
This is amazing. I love this.
Oh, I really like this one.
I love this.
Your words caught me to the quick.
Yeah. I love books and like looking through artist journals. You could sometimes find the best stuff there.
Yeah.
Like the more personal, stories.
That is true. That is true.
That is like artist journals to me. I love going through them. And not every artist will let you see them. So when I get that opportunity, it's sweet. Very a treat.
The hair.
Yeah.
I had like a trendy moment with hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was studying material, what's it called? Material and I forgot. With Don Lambert, I was exploring a lot of material and like so I was using like soft sculpture with like fabric, more specifically canvas, and oh no, this is glue. And yeah, so I had a moment of like I was using a lot of like hair, synthetic hair, and real hair for works.
I see a lot of braids.
Exactly. So this was part of that time, I would say.
Yeah. Beautiful.
She's still searching for her head.
We all are.
Exactly.
We all are. Will we ever find it?
And then she finds it, but we can't see her identity.
No.
You see? Because it's... So this it's an artist book that I did at Mural as well. And it's a manuscript, an illuminated manuscript called The Body. And it's basically, I guess it works like a lexicon because I'm trying to create a new interpretation of bodies of parts of the body. Like the stomach. And it's all ink, ink on paper.
I love the cup.
And here it started with the little ants. I think this was the first time that I did the ants, which it's kind of like, have you ever seen El Perro Andaluz?
Yes.
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 It's a reference of
It's a
that.
reference to that?
Yeah. And this is a reference, oh my God, I don't remember. There's a painting of these two women who one is touching the nipple of the other.
Yeah.
I forgot. It's a very famous painting.
Beautiful. This is gorgeous. You think you're selling these?
It would be great. But I haven't.
I would want to hold on to it forever. It's beautiful.
So this is the book, Adios. And it's basically the book and then the object, as I mentioned before. And then the object, it opens. So I made this, like, I would say pedestal, where you can like open the book. Well, the object, the book object.
Because you could see, yeah. Oh.
And then you take out the book.
Take out that component.
And then the book is like a double book. So it has, so you flip the pages at the same time. That's basically the idea.
Oh.
And then it has like a double poem as well. One in Spanish and another one in English. And the Spanish is talking about what he was, my grandfather, and then what he became, the sea. Basically that.
Viene un sol de Camagüey. Oh, I love it. It's beautiful.
And there's always, like a circle as well. So
yeah.
I also have in
You
it.
incorporate a lot of that.
Yes.
Beautiful. I love this.
I don't know if you want to see the whole thing. We can always, go to the end.
Beautiful. I love it. The poems, you write them?
This one I did. Not all of them. It depends also.
Did you always love poetry?
I really like poetry, yes. I used to read a lot in Cuba, honestly. I feel like I haven't been reading that much in here. And it's really hard because I feel like my time is so limited.
Yeah.
It's either I create, like, no sé. But I kind of like miss having that time for reading.
Yeah.
And y de ocio.
Yeah.
How do you say that in English? When you have ese tiempo de ocio, de the recreación, you know, like
Yeah. Spare time. We don't have a lot of that.
we
now.
don't have a lot of spare time. Yeah.
No. Oh, I love it. So beautiful. And it's so funny because you work small and now you're able to translate it to large scale too.
Yeah, yeah.
And but you haven't changed your style, what's true to you. It's still the same. It's just in a larger scale, you know.
That's true. That's true.
Love it. It's beautiful.